She steps from the tree line into spindrift, choosing a ridge line before the cold steals daylight. She probes the snow crust for solid ground, wary of hidden hollows that could swallow a cabin base. She snaps frozen spruce boughs into bundles, listening for cracks that hint at danger close by. She drags bow bundles to mark a rectangle, but the wind starts refilling her work the moment it opens. She scrapes down to firm snow, fearing a damp layer that could turn tonight into a slow freeze. She hunts dry bark and twigs in a leeward pocket, betting everything on tinder that will actually catch. She builds a raised stash by a flat boulder, knowing one gust could bury her only dry fuel in minutes. She braces a dead pole for the first cuts, careful as brittle wood threatens to snap the wrong way fast. She hauls heavier fuel through drifting powder, racing darkness as the fire plan stays uncertain. She shapes a tinder nest and kindling teepee, praying the first sparks arrive before the next wind punch. She strikes stone to stone, sparks skitter in the bark, and a tiny ember finally refuses to die. She breathes slow and shallow. The ember turns to flame, then falters as the wind hunts for it. She feeds pencil-thin twigs one by one, building a steady flame before thicker kindling can crush it. She crosslays small splits, brightening the pocket fire, but watches for choke as heat suddenly surges. She returns to the footprint and scrapes deeper, fighting spindrift that keeps erasing the cleared floor. She spreads spruce boughs for traction, but worries the hidden lumps could twist an ankle in the dark. She chooses straighter dead poles, tapping off ice, hoping they are strong enough to stay true as a base. She sets the first baseline pole, nudging it by inches until the rectangle sits square against the ridge. She pins corners with snow and stones, sealing seams fast, before the wind can lever the walls apart. She feeds the steady flame with a thicker piece, banking heat low, then walks away with it still alive. She shapes a raised wood stash by the boulder, knowing buried kindling would end everything fast. She piles a low snow berm as windbreak, hoping it will not crumble when the next gust hits hard. She breaks thick deadwood into haul lengths, listening for overhead snaps in the frozen spruce crowns. She drags heavy fuel through a wind lane, one stumble away from losing the load and her heat plan. She feeds the pocket fire and stacks the fuel close, betting this flame will last while walls rise. She thickens the cabin base with straight poles, wedging seams so the wind cannot roll them loose. She sets a heavy stop log on the east edge, racing spindrift that keeps trying to bury her progress. She matches the wall on the west side, checking level by firelight so gaps do not become drafts. She stomps the floor and rations boughs, saving insulation for sleep while keeping traction now. She banks the fire low with a medium piece, guarding coals that must survive her next long run. She tests thicker deadwood for hidden cracks, choosing pieces that must carry the first wall course. She drags a heavy log through spindrift, stopping once to keep it from rolling into her shins hard. She seats the heavy piece into the wall line and packs snow hard, sealing a seam and the wind wants. She marks a doorway opening with short threshold pieces, wondering how to stop it from funneling wind. She builds a low coal bed and stages quick feed sticks, keeping the fire alive without flaring up. She raises the stash broom and tucks kindling deeper, praying the next gust will not bury it overnight. She places a dry reserve inside the footprint edge, hoping it stays dry when spindrift sneaks in. She extends the first wall course with heavy segments, watching the rectangle fight to stay square. She shifts a corner piece by inches and repacks snow, correcting drift before it becomes a failure. She selects the next heavy pieces and starts the drag, hoping the fire still lives when she returns. She hauls the thick log through spindrift, knees dipping once, then fights it back under control. She locks the heavy piece into the wall gap and packs snow hard, sealing a seam the wind would exploit. She builds up the doorway sides, keeping the opening low, afraid it will turn into a wind tunnel. She shapes an angled snow deflector by the doorway, hoping it bends airflow instead of feeding drift inside. She tightens the coal bed with a medium piece, then carries spare wood, knowing the flame must endure. She stores spare wood inside and adds boughs near the north wall, saving most insulation for later. She starts a second layer at the corner, packing snow into a crude lock that must stop the wall sliding. She locks the opposite corner, then sights the wall line, catching a subtle skew before it spreads. She shifts a wall segment by inches and repacks seams, paying time now to avoid collapse later. She chooses one thick piece and a lock segment, then starts the drag, unsure if the fire still survives. She resets her grip and twists the log to slide easier, careful it does not roll and crush a foot. She seats a thick second layer log and adds a lock piece, knowing one slip could spread the wall apart. She raises a low wall section near the doorway, trying to block drafts without trapping herself inside. She flattens the coal bed for endurance, but worries a gust could cool it fast and end her heat. She marks a warm corner inside the walls, but knows without a roof the heat will escape in seconds. She tests a roof pole across the rooftops. It wobbles, and one slip could ruin the whole build. He packs snow into saddle seats and relays the roof pole, trusting snow alone to hold it in place. She chooses 2 straighter poles for rafters, but each extra trip risks the fire weakening back there. She lays a second roof pole and packs new snow seats, praying the walls do not bow under shifting load. She lifts boughs onto the rafters, leaving a small vent gap, unsure if it will block drift or invite it in. She feeds quick sticks to wake the coals, then adds a medium piece, hoping the heat holds while she builds. She warms flat stones by the coals, careful they do not crack, and steel heat she cannot replace. She overlaps boughs on the rafters, but keeps a vent gap open, fearing drift will choke the air inside. She presses snow onto the bow roof for weight, but keeps the vent gap clear as drift tries to seal it. Inside, the wind finally dulls a little, and she tests drafts by hand, still worried the air will turn bad. She finds frozen bones under drift, choosing the cleanest pieces, knowing broth might buy strength and time. She melts snow on hot stones and rinses the bones, watching the coals like a hawk as heat slowly drains. She starts a low simmer with bones, afraid the bark vessel will scorch before broth has time to form. She braces the roof poles for stiffness, but each added weight risks sag and a sudden collapse over her head. She tops the simmer with snow and stirs the bones, planning a move before the broth cools into useless ice. She lifts the steaming bark vessel to move it, knowing one spill could waste hours and precious heat. She carries hot broth through drifting snow, steps measured, afraid a stumble will turn it all to ice. She slips the steaming vessel inside, watching drafts steal warmth as the roof finally dulls the wind. She tastes the broth with a bark sliver, tiny warmth returning, but knows the fire outside still decides everything. She thickens the sleeping pad beside the warm corner, but wonders if this roof can survive the next hard gust. She circles the roof, pressing weak seams, and keeps the vent gap open, fearing smoke and frost inside. She feeds the coals again, keeping heat options open, but knows each trip costs energy she cannot spare. She seals tiny draft seams by hand and finishes the pad, but listens for roof lift and the wind's rhythm. She leans boughs as a doorway barrier, hoping it blocks drift without trapping her if the roof sags. She drinks the broth and finally rests on boughs, but listens for a roof shift that could wake panic fast. She rises from the boughs and tests drafts by hand, listening for roof lift in the wind's steady hiss. Outside, she presses a loose roof edge flat, knowing one peel could turn the cabin into a snow trap. She braces the rafters with a short tie, clearing the vent again as drift tries to seal the cabin shut. She heads back to the spruces for more boughs, knowing the roof still needs weight before weather turns. She compresses 2 bow bundles and grabs a short brace pole, hoping the load does not snag and spill. She carries bow bundles back to the doorway, pressing them down so the wind cannot steal them again. She adds fresh bolls and snowweed to the roof, but keeps clearing the vent before it seals tight. Inside, she shields the broth from freezing and checks the vent draw, knowing stale air can be deadly too. She heads for the fire pocket again, knowing the coals and broth both fail fast in this cold, no kidding. She feeds the coals as gusts tighten into pulses, sensing a shift that could bury the fire and roof alike. The gusts arrive in tight pulses. She narrows the fire pocket gate, afraid the coals will get sandblasted out. She rushes back to the shelter as spindrift thickens, knowing the roof can peel in a single bad gust. She slaps fresh snow weight onto thin roof spots, clearing the vent again as drift tries to seal it shut. She raises the doorway berm and tightens the bow barrier, fearing drift will seal the entry and trap her inside. Inside, the cabin shudders with gust pulses. She protects the broth and checks the vent, afraid of stale air. Powder sifts from a roof seam. She props boughs underneath, fearing a leak will turn the bedding into ice. She drinks warm broth to steady her hands, watching the roof flex, unsure if it will hold through one more surge. She checks the doorway for drift, scrapes a forming lip away, fearing the exit will seal while she rests. She settles into the warm corner and listens as the wind eases a little, wondering what the next blow will demand. The cabin holds for now. She sits with thin steam rising, knowing survival is never finished, only paused.